Positive psychology manifestation is dead. Welcome to Bare and Aware, the podcast that goes beyond surface level to get down to the truth beneath it all. This is for the woman rooted in her truth, rooted in her body, who knows that there's more than just happiness. And today, we're going to be diving deeper into that. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about why positive psychology manifestation doesn't work and more powerful modalities to use instead so that you can build a life from your deepest desires. What is this positive psychology manifestation, right? So it all stems from these lines of thought that if you only think positive thoughts, you will attract these things into your life. Manifesting exclusively from positive thoughts, affirmations, and visualizations often leads to spiritual bypass, which is when you deny what's in front of you. You're in denial to your life, and it ignores, suppresses, and avoids the deeper shadows within. If you're in this loop, I totally understand. That was me for probably most of my life. I was always happy, always smiling, always laughing, but deeper down, I was avoiding the things that were making me uncomfortable and that I didn't want to think about. So if I committed to something, like volunteering or hosting someone, or, I would just try to eject myself from the situation. So I would disappear, I would change my number, I wouldn't think about it because it's not positive to think about these uncomfortable things, right? And as I went on, I always thought I was happy. So it's not that this positive psychology won't do anything for you. It gave me a good life. I was happy. But I was living in an illusion where I was avoiding all these different things that I didn't want to happen to me, like health-wise, life-wise, relationships, everything. I would simply not look at my fears. And at first it wasn't very obvious to me. Of course, we're never aware of all the little manipulations that our subconscious does for us. But the moment where I really came to hone this modality that I'm going to share with you in a bit is in something that was very somatic in my body, that was very anchored in my nervous system. And what it was is whenever this was happening to me for over a decade, whenever I was driving and I was crossing an intersection, I had this sensation that a car would just run a red light and just like T-bone, like crash into me. And I had it for a decade, like a good decade. And when I first got into the spirituality, shamanism, energy work, I noticed it and I looked at it with curiosity, like, okay, that's interesting. There's a nervous system response every time that I'm triggered. So let me try something else. And so I did this visualization where I was crossing the road and I had the same response, but then I visualized that when the car hit me, it just like turned into butterflies and confetti and like all colorful and da-na-na-na-na, and then I lift up and fly away into another dimension. And so I did that for a few times. It didn't really do much. It softened the fear response because I was like, okay, like pretty butterflies, I'm not scared anymore. But it was still there. It was still persistent. And so when I got more into the world of somatics and feeling the polarity of everything, I started being curious about this shadow, about the darkness. And so the next time I was driving, I actually visualized, yeah, the car smashing into me and like the whole tragedy and everything and death and I liked it. Yeah, like there was some sort of beauty in it and not resisting and just allowing it to happen. And the crazy thing is, after I did that one time, I realized where this sensation was coming from. It was a memory from earlier in my life that was so far back in my subconscious that I forgot existed. But when I was about 11 years old, there was a time when I was going to the mall with my friend. I was in the back seat of the car. Her parents were driving. And we were on a road. It was separated by a median, and then there was several lanes of traffic going one way and several lanes going the other way. And as we were driving, there was actually a car that came out from the side. It flew over the median, I don't know, and then T-boned us. And it hit the car on the side where I was seated. And at the time, I didn't really process it. Like, I was fine, like, nothing happened. But when I did that full visualization, I realized that I was reliving that moment, even though at the point in time, I was like, I'm fine, everything's good. It was still stuck in there, that fear that someone was going to come out and hit the car. And after I did that visualization, from one day to the next, it's gone. Like, not there anymore. It was just a warning, something from the universe, something from my subconscious that wanted to be acknowledged that this is a possibility. And oftentimes, when we're very deep in the positive psychology of things, we ignore. We consciously ignore and we unconsciously ignore the other end of the spectrum, which is really important. And then if you think about a balance and you're putting all this effort onto the positive and you're trying to bury the negative underneath, like eventually something will have to give because you're not balanced. You know, life, we're all here. Everything that you love is going to be taken away from you. The purpose of life, or like the end destination, is death. So trying to ignore the shadow, ignore the darkness, it's only going to place you in an illusion. You're going to be living in an illusion with your spiritual bypass and your positive affirmation, but it's not actually going to work. Because the universe, you as a being, you're not here only to experience the positive and to laugh and then to love and go through your life, going through the motions with ultimate ease. Spirit incarnated here because it wanted to learn, and we learn through these challenges. We learn through the shadows. We learn through pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone. Whenever you're simply focusing on the positive, you're actually living in denial. And when you're living in denial, something inevitably will come that will knock it down. The balance of the universe will be restored. And what I'm going to introduce you to is negative visualization manifestation. It's envisioning and embodying the shadow, the thing that you're trying to avoid, to release its grip. And oftentimes the shadow has important messages for us. And whether the shadow is suppressed because you're afraid of it, it's like a part of you that you reject, or whether it's something past down by society that you actually secretly want, that you secretly desire. And when you actually give that focus to the shadow, you allow it to come out, you witness it, you have the full point of view. You're no longer only looking at one area where there's a spotlight. You're looking out into the world of unmanifest. You're connecting with something much deeper. It's part of my method, Shadow Sensualization, which means you bring the senses into the shadow. You allow it to be felt and to be expressed. And you allow it to dance the shadow with the light. And oh my God, like we're using the words positive and negative, right? But when you use this method, you actually realize that there is ecstasy to be found everywhere, in the anger, in the sadness. It's like an energetic release. It's kind of the same as you maybe like to watch sad movies, maybe you like to watch horror movies. There is some sort of pleasure in that. There is an ecstasy that can be found in it because we want to experience it all. Sometimes we might say, I want to experience it in a movie, but I don't want to experience it firsthand. Like if it happens to me, no. An example, if you're trying to find a partner, like a life partner, and you're focusing only on this desire, like, okay, like, I want a boyfriend, like, I want and you're out there looking, and it's like repeating the mantras and saying like, okay, I'm worthy of love, and and you don't look at the other end of the spectrum, which is maybe a fear of being alone, maybe a discomfort in being alone. It's not going to work very well. Maybe you will attract someone. You'll take the first dude off the street, but it's going to crash and burn until you face your shadows and you marry your desires, your conscious desires with your unconscious desires. And you weave your reality, you manifest with both threads. And this is how the whole reality is structured. Even atoms hold a charge, positive, neutral, negative. And if they're out of balance, they collapse. An excessive focus on the positive, it's out of balance. Now, I've talked about the positive and the negative, but these are all very vague terms. These are all terms that society uses to box things in. But having these visualizations, it doesn't mean that you have to wallow in your self-pity, wallow in your fear. It's allowing them to be witnessed and to be felt. Because when they are felt, they are free to move. They are free to transform. You can then learn from them. You can see all of them as messengers, all carrying a message. It might not be clear from the first get-go, but if you allow it to arrive, to come, give it a safe space to exist and be witnessed, it will be delivered. Negative visualization isn't something new. This is something the Stoics have been practicing for who knows how long. And the idea is that you visualize something tragic, like a death of a loved one, loss of something that you really love. And the intention is, after you do this negative visualization for a little bit, don't wallow in it, and then you come back to your life and you see your loved ones are here, then you feel that sense of gratitude. And gratitude is the desire, wanting what you have. And what better way to really be grateful for what you have than to recognize the impermanence of it. Everything here, it comes, it goes. And we must not grasp. The more we grasp, the harder we fall. But the sooner you come to terms with the fact that anything can happen to you, like the worst shit can happen to you, and the most amazing things can also happen to you, you are free to just be without the trap of the past and the future. There's a quote, die before you die. And what it means is allowing the illusion to die. Because when you die, you can finally live. When you allow that part of you that's so attached to the mental dialogue, so attached to the desires, like, oh, I want the money, I want the man, I want the life, and I want the reputation and the followers. I want all of these things. Why don't I have them? I am repeating the affirmation, my life is beautiful, my life is beautiful, my life is beautiful. Why do I still feel like shit? Why does this all happen to me? I don't want this job. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want all of these other things. Why do they keep coming to me? Isn't it ridiculous? The resistance, the clinging and the resistance. If you take the perspective of God, like of the universe, the third person, the natural event to unfurl in that scenario is collapse, shattering of the illusion. And it's like, oh, I finally found who I really am, and it's not those things. And the beautiful thing is when you put it all out on the table, the shadows and the light, and you use that as raw material, you can weave such amazing art. Like if you think of the best artists, they were all crazy, they were all wild. And that's what made them artists. It's taking that shadow and this thing that you're avoiding and that hurts, that has so much feeling, and you're weaving it together with your artistry, and you're creating something for the world that the world can look at and have their breath be taken away. And also, as you work with these elements, you work with your shadows, the fact that you make art and you create, this is also allowing the learning to happen, the processing, and it's setting you free of these energetic ties, these karmic ties. It's liberating you. That's true liberation. And this is exactly what we're doing in the Great Remembering. We have the Shadow Sensualization that I talked about already, which is feeling, embodying. We have spiritual striptease, which is the recognition that all these roles, all these masks, they are like clothes. They don't define us. We are not the clothes. We are the human underneath the clothes. And the same with all these belief systems, all of these identities, all of these things that we're always clinging to. They're also just things that lay on top of the surface of the soul of our true essence. And the sooner we realize that, oh, like, I can take this off with play, with reverence, with mischief. When you do that, you realize that you can put on certain roles when it's necessary, but you don't let them define you, you don't let them use you, you use them. You can put on the workaholic for a couple hours to get a project done, but then you put it down, you have lunch, you spend time with your family. And finally, embodied awareness. This is where everything turns to ecstasy. It's moving through all these feelings, all these rhythms, and becoming the full expression of your soul, where you are that soul artist, where even the mundane becomes spiritual, becomes meaningful, where you find meaning in everything.
This is what we're doing in the Great Remembering. Not healing so you can be happy or good, but remembering so you can be whole, so you can feel it all, so you can create from truth.
I have a few spots open for the Great Remembering. My one-to-one private mentorship, where we use somatics, movement and embodiment to move through the landscape of your life to become that full expression of your soul essence and your soul purpose, to become liberated and awakened, to die before you die. Such a sexy line. You want to sign up?
Link to apply in the show notes.
If you love this episode, subscribe, leave a review. It's going to allow more humans, more amazing women to connect to my madness. Share this with a friend who's overly optimistic. You know what I mean. See you in the next one.